For the first time in my life, I stood before a house marked by a cruel and gruesome murder, a case still shrouded in mystery. Here, the life of a young and promising realtor, Lindsay Buziak, was brutally cut short. In this painting, I have tried to capture the foreboding and quiet dread she carried in the days before her death, concealed behind her vibrant and charming exterior. If you love art with a touch of mystery, you are in the right place. Welcome to Mrs. Arty. Don't just watch from the doorway. Please come inside. Like, subscribe, and remember, some houses have secrets. In late January 2008, Lindsay Buziak, a vivacious, kind, and ambitious 24-year-old realtor from Victoria, British Columbia, received a strange phone call. The woman on the line said she was in search of a home. It was an expensive purchase. Houses in Victoria are not cheap, and this one was $1 million plus house. There were a few things which were very suspicious about this call. Firstly, the caller wanted to purchase in cash. Although it's not impossible, to Lindsay, it sounded too good to be true. Secondly, Lindsay found the accent to be kind of off. It almost seemed like someone was trying to fake an accent. A mix of Spanish and English. Something felt very wrong. Finally, Lindsay was new in the real estate business, so just the mere fact that such a high-profile client had chosen her was disbelieving. Moreover, the caller called her private number and not the one which is on her company brochure. The client mentioned that she was referred by another client, which is kind of a big deal in this business. Lindsay tried her best to contact the client who referred her to verify, but failed. Over the next few days, Lindsay exchanged messages with the prospective buyer. After some deliberation, they agreed to a private showing of a house in Gordon Head at 1702 D'Souza Place on February 2nd at 5:30 p.m. It was unfortunately going to be the last showing of Lindsay Buziak. Another important character in the story is Lindsay's boyfriend, Jason Zylo. When Lindsay confided to Jason about the showing and her uneasy feeling about it, Jason tried to reassure her and even offered to accompany her to the showing. Like a true professional, Lindsay refused. Jason claimed that she was very independent and she liked to take care of her things by herself. On February 2nd, Lindsay went to her real estate office in the morning. She chatted with the receptionist, who later revealed that she was quite freaked out about the showing. She had a quick lunch with Jason in downtown Victoria before the showing. After lunch, Jason went to an auto shop close to the restaurant while Lindsay went to prepare for the showing. Later, Jason called Lindsay and offered to follow her to the showing in a separate car, just to make sure she is okay. Lindsay agreed. Right around the same time, Jason got another phone call from his friend Cohen Oatman, with whom he had dinner plans later. They agreed to meet up at the auto shop where Jason was, and from there, they drove to the house at 1702 D'Souza Place. While driving there, Jason had trouble finding the house, and he called Lindsay. However, Lindsay had to cut the call short as the clients were already there. She texted him the address, to which Jason responded immediately saying he is on his way there. This text from Jason was never opened. The showing was at 5:30 p.m. Jason and Oatman arrived at the house at 5:45. The house was in a tiny cul-de-sac with only one finished house at the time. Jason found Lindsay's black BMW was at the front of the property, but the door was locked, which was odd. as it was customary for real estate agents to leave the door open during a showing. Jason later said that as he approached the house, he saw a figure through the glass of the front door. He parked outside for about 10 minutes, but then decided to drive to another street to wait, not wanting to appear like a nosy, interfering boyfriend. Jason waited 20 minutes outside and texted Lindsay again. After not getting any reply from her, he tried to get inside the house. Through the mottled glass of the front door, Jason could see Lindsay's shoes in the entrance hall, but there was no sign of movement inside. They knocked on the door many times, but still no response. Jason and Oatman tried to enter the house through the basement entrance, but failed. At 6:05 p.m., Jason called 911 and informed them of the situation and basically told them that they were trying to break into the house. Then they discovered a patio at the side of the house, and when they peered over the fence, they saw the back door was open. At this point, both of them panicked. Jason's friend Oatman found a gap in the fence and they both entered the back garden. The back door was wide open. Oatman tried to scan the whole house while Jason ran straight to the master bedroom in the top floor. There, he saw a horrific scene. Lindsay was lying in a thick pool of blood. There were some bloody footprints on the floor. Oatman at this point made the second phone call to 911 at 6:11 p.m. Lindsay was killed by multiple stab wounds. She was stabbed over 40 times. It seemed it was a frenzied and very personal attack. The time of death was reported to be 5:40 p.m., about 5 minutes before Jason and his friend reached the house. At about that time, there seems to be a phone call made from Lindsay's BlackBerry to an old friend. All one can hear was a muffling on the message. Police believes Lindsay was attacked at the exact moment this accidental phone call was made. So, let's look at the evidence at hand. The phone number of the client seems to belong to a burner phone bought in Vancouver under a fake name, used only to contact Lindsay. According to cell phone tower pings, the phone was brought from Vancouver to Victoria on a ferry the day prior to the murder. It was disposed of after the murder. A second phone was also used to check voicemail messages received on the first phone. There were witnesses who saw Lindsay and the clients at the property. It seemed that the client couple were Caucasian. The woman had blonde hair. The man was tall and dark-haired. The woman was wearing a very colorful dress. Why would a murderer wear a dress attracting attention? Hard to say, but apparently someone bought the dress in a thrift store called Value Village a few years after the murder. It is likely that the dress is the same, although it is not an expensive designer dress. The police claims that this lead did not materialize into anything useful. Some witnesses claim to have seen the couple flee from the back door, which is likely because they saw Jason's car at the front of the property. It is very clear that Lindsay invited her killers onto the property at 5:29 p.m. We get the exact time from the special logbox that realtors use for showing. Next, Saanich Police closely examined Lindsay's Toshiba laptop, and on her Facebook page, the police found something very odd. There seems to be no messages exchanged between her and her 700 friends between January 24, 2008 and February 2, 2008. Given her usual Facebook activity, this was very odd, and it seems someone deliberately deleted those messages. Again, Lindsay visited Calgary in December 2007 to see her dad, Jeff Buziak. She also tried to contact an old acquaintance by phone and Facebook. We don't know why did she contact that person, but we do know the person she contacted was the relative of a man named Erickson Del Alcazar, 6 weeks after Lindsay returned to Victoria, Delal Kazar was caught in the biggest drug bust in the history of Canada. And Kazar was one of the major participants of this drug trafficking operation. The police also found several names in Lindsay's friend list who were violent drug-related criminals. The names of all these people are still redacted. One more important information is that Lindsay and Jason Zylo had a rocky relationship prior to the murder. The fact that Jason Zylo ran upstairs without looking anywhere is presumed to be suspicious. However, given the timeline and forensics, it is almost ruled out that Jason Zylo is the murderer. Whether he is somehow related to the murder is another question. Jason Zylo and his family was thoroughly investigated, including Jason's mother, Shirley Zylo. Lindsay and Jason's mom, Shirley, worked in the same office, Remax Camoson. Shirley also had a connection with that particular cul-de-sac where Lindsay was murdered. The cul-de-sac was named after Shirley's friend Joe D'Souza, who was a developer there. Part of the cul-de-sac was still under construction at the time of the murder, and Joe D'Souza was at the location an hour before the murder, supervising the construction work. Also later in 2008, Nikki, one of Lindsay's close friends, claimed that she received a phone call at the middle of the night, and the woman on the other end had a fake Spanish accent. If you remember, Lindsay got a similar phone call from her killer. According to Nikki, what happened next was unsettling. After receiving that strange call, she dialed the number back over and over, 20 or 30 times, until someone finally picked up. On the other end, it was Shirley Zylo. Nikki pressed her. Why had she called, and how had she gotten her number? The two women had never spoken before. Shirley's explanation was peculiar. She claimed she had been trying to reach her secretary, also named Nikki, and had no idea why this Nikki's number appeared in her contacts. Shirley speculated that her son Jason might have added it, but Shirley insists this incident never took place. To this day, it has never been confirmed whether Nikki's account was examined by the investigators. It seems that the murder was somewhat professional, as it was a pre-planned operation done in approximately 10 minutes. But the brutal nature of the murder, on the other hand, points to a personal attack. Did she know her killer? That's the main question. In February 2021, Saanich Police revealed that breakthroughs in DNA analysis, along with other investigative technologies, had uncovered fresh leads in the case. Yet, 4 years later, the trail remains silent, and the public is still waiting for an update. Lindsay's dad, Jeff Buziak, holds an annual walk to keep the fire of the investigation aflame. Jeff has accused the Zylos on several social media platforms. As a result, Shirley Zylo filed a civil defamation case against Jeff in 2022. Jeff is also struggling with his health. All he wants is justice for his loving daughter. If you know anything at all about the murder of Lindsay Buziak, contact the authorities. Because some houses deserve to be lived in, and some stories deserve an ending. When you look at this painting, the flowers burst with color, alive, vibrant. Yet the house feels cold, hollow, abandoned. Lindsay's life was the same, bright with promise, yet it ended in that very house, a place meant to mark her first big steps towards success. This house sits perched on the edge of a cliff, and so does her story, a true cliffhanger, frozen between hope for justice and the abyss of the unknown.